Hi everyone, just thought I'd give an update on some of the camera equipment I use to make videos on this channel. It's always interesting to hear what other people are using. I've only been doing this for a little while, video, as well as the YouTube channel, so less than a year or so. So the equipment I use are not certainly ideal necessarily for it or the best you can get, but they have some redeeming qualities, and I thought I'd talk about the disadvantages or the advantages of each for what it's worth. I've only had a cell phone for about a year myself, but it's a very handy tool to utilize for the type of videography and picture taking I do, because I do a lot of hiking and walking and bicycling, so I often carry it now mainly for that purpose as opposed to using it as a telephone. I'm usually recording images and video that I can use for various purposes. A lot of the photographs of plants and animals that I encounter, I put into the program iNaturalist, which is a citizen science project where people all across the world can take pictures of the various species they're encountering and enter that into iNaturalist, and iNaturalist even has software that will help to identify the species for you if you don't know what it is already. So that's a really handy thing that a cell phone can be used for. If you're familiar with some of the videos I've already done, you'll see a lot of videos of myself and the dogs walking along the trails in the local area, and a lot of those are done on the cell phone. Just because, again, it's easy to carry, it's light, slips in your pocket, takes really good video. This can take 4K video as well as 1080. It can have slow motion to 240p. So it has a lot of capability, and this one's 3 years old now, roughly. I got it sort of as a secondary use item. So the newer ones have a lot more capability even, I'm sure. But that's their main feature. It has fairly good stability when you're walking with it as well, although ideally you'd have it on a gimbal for really smooth footage. I don't have a gimbal at this point. Another major use I've put it to, similar to what I've already said, but I've been taking pictures of moths outside of our house at night, and it's got a built-in flash and a 10-power zoom. So you can utilize all those features to get really nice pictures of the moths. And again, I shove those into iNaturalist because I'm learning the moths right now. And it is very good at identifying or giving you close approximations of the species you're looking at. And on iNaturalist, you also get input from other people, so that can help. Another camera I've utilized quite a bit since starting this channel is what's known as a bridge camera. This is the Nikon P900. So it has what they call a super telephoto zoom. This lens on this camera zooms from 24 millimeters to 2000 millimeters. So you can see the extent to which this camera will zoom. So that has a lot of abilities to bring in faraway objects, both natural and man-made, but certainly good for birds, bringing in birds or other animals far away. It also gives you the ability to have a pretty good wide angle at the short end, and it's got good image stabilization built into it. So this being a bridge camera, I think the name bridge refers to the fact it's sort of in between a point and shoot camera and a digital single lens reflex. This particular model also has a flip out screen, so you can do yourself in videos quite easily, or just use the angle of the screen to facilitate taking pictures in different positions. But a really nice overall little camera that contains a lot of different lenses built into it, really. This is the main one I've used a lot for our horse videos, where I'm taking videos of our new foal Piper this year. So you can zoom into the horses when they're far away from you. You can bring them in close, and then you can zoom out as they come towards you. So it gives you that flexibility, which is hard on any of the other cameras. So that's been a really nice little camera. The disadvantage of this is you can't plug a microphone into it, so you're at the whim of the internal microphone. which certainly picks up wind noise and stuff. And if that occurs, I tend to just knock the audio out of it and just put some other sound in the background maybe. An example of another bridge camera is this somewhat older model, the Canon SX50HS, which is a smaller one, smaller bridge camera. Also has the flip screen. This is from, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago now. It's been replaced, it was replaced by the SX60HS. And it has a pretty good little zoom on it too, a 50 power zoom. Nice, this one's very small and light, which is nice. This only goes up to 1080p, as does the other one that I just showed. And they have small sensors, both of them. But they do give you pretty good video and pretty good photos. The last Nikon I showed can provide some really stunningly good detail on photos. But neither of these cameras are really good for cropping into photos closely because of their small sensor size. That's their only main disadvantage. Well, it's not their only disadvantage, but that's one of the main disadvantages of them. But if you're looking to take something with you that combines a lot of different lenses and sort of quickness of use, these are sometimes good options just to be able to capture wildlife at a distance, ducks and things out on lakes, or mammals that are farther away from you, or even just pictures of scenery that are further away from you. They're handy little cameras to play with. This is my main photographic camera. It's the Nikon D7100, again from 7 years ago now, hard to believe. And it's an interchangeable digital single lens reflex camera. So that means you can add all kinds of different lenses onto this, which makes it extremely flexible. Obviously, one of the disadvantages is the body size is fairly large and heavy, fairly heavy. And then, of course, any lens you add onto it's going to make it heavier still. This lens is a 150 to 600 millimeter telephoto from Tamron. And there's a few companies that make these. Nikon makes their own 2 to 500 telephoto lens, and Sigma also makes a similar one to this. Really good for bringing wildlife in close, 600 millimeter. And the other advantage of this camera type, which is also known as a crop sensor camera, is that it actually magnifies the image brought in by any lens by 1.5. So this lens, being a 600 millimeter at its longest end, actually becomes a 900 millimeter lens. So those are big advantages of having this crop sensor sized camera. A lot of wildlife photographers, even professionals, use these over and above full frame sensor cameras because of that crop factor. It really enables you to get in close on wildlife over and above the normal power of the lens. Also, this camera has a 24 megapixel sensor, and certainly at its inception and even today it holds its own in a high resolution digital image on that sensor. So you can crop into it 100 or 200% in a lot of cases. If you have a good image to begin with, you can crop right in close and tight and still end up with a good image. So you might have, in the original image, you might have a bird in some brush, and by the end of the cropping you might be able to get right into its head and still get a good shot, which you wouldn't be able to do on the cameras with the smaller sensor size. So that's what this camera and similar cameras to this can bring you. This one can take good video, but it doesn't have a good autofocus system, so I tend to use it just for photography. If you go back and look at my video from this spring of the eastern chorus frogs singing in our pit, however, I did take the video with this camera, because there I could set it on a tripod, get the image focused, because they were just sitting still and singing, and then get everything else, the exposure right, and take the video. And certainly it has the capability to take good cinema quality video. Anyhow, that's a little bit of the cameras I've got indoors. I also have trail cameras outside in the woods. These are the little boxy like cameras you can buy at all kinds of different sporting goods stores and things like that. And mostly they're used by hunters. I'm not a hunter, but I just put them out in our woods so I can get an idea of what the animals are that are out there walking around at night. And it's always a surprise to see what you might see. So they're fairly, you can get them cheap or more expensive. The few I've tried over the years tend to be, they give sort of mediocre picture and video quality, but some of them are probably certainly better than others at doing that, but they're fun to play with if you have a bit of land to put them on. And these were actually the cameras I used to start this channel. Just, I thought when I got a number of videos from them, I thought I'd just put them on YouTube for people to see and enjoy. And from there, I've ventured into other types of video now relating to the outdoors, largely around our farm here. Anyhow, I hope that's been helpful for you to see the types of cameras I'm using and why, and I'm sure my equipment will be changing in the near future to some degree, and I'll let you know when that happens and why it happened. And please feel free to tell me the types of gear you use, and that way we can learn from each other and talk about the best or worst of each types of camera and gear, and hopefully learn from there. Anyhow, catch you later.